And India and the US has finally struck a deal after months of waiting. After suspense, pressure and tariff threats, the US-India trade deadlock is finally over, and the announcement did not come from negotiators or joint statements. It came straight from Donald Trump himself. In a late-night political bombshell, US President revealed that a direct phone call with Prime Minister Modi sealed the long-pending trade deal with immediate effect. Here are the big takeaways from what Trump has announced so far. First, on tariffs. Trump says that the US will now impose a reduced reciprocal tariff of 18% on Indian goods, down from 25%. For Indian exporters, this is a significant relief after months of uncertainty, especially for engineering goods, textiles, chemicals, auto components that depend heavily on the US market. Secondly, with Russian oil penalty now withdrawn, Washington has reportedly scrapped the additional 25% penalty it imposed earlier on India over its purchase of Russian oil. According to US officials, this follows India's alleged commitment to scale back Russian oil imports, and sources say that more energy will now be imported from United States and possibly Venezuela. Now, India has made it clear that it will continue to import oil from where it wants and when it wants, depending entirely on India's own needs and market interests. Third, energy and oil at the heart of the deal. Trump claims that India has agreed to massively ramp up energy purchases from US, including oil, gas and coal. And energy, not manufacturing, appears to be the deal's strategic core, with the US positioning itself as a long-term supplier to India. India has again made it clear that it wasn't importing oil from Venezuela because of restrictions, and now that Venezuela is open, India will start importing oil from Venezuela. Fourth, agriculture and market access. Trump says that India will move towards zero tariffs and non-tariff barriers on US products, including agriculture goods. If true, this would mark a major shift for India's traditionally protected farm sector and is likely to trigger political and farm-level pushback as well. However, government says that there is no compromise on the interest of the farmers. Sensitive sectors like agriculture, dairy will be protected, continue to be protected. And fifth, the $500 billion claim. Donald Trump asserted that Prime Minister Modi committed India is going to buy over $500 billion worth of US goods spanning energy, agriculture, technology and raw material. So far, this figure remained Trump's claim alone, with no official confirmation from India's side. Prime Minister Modi welcomed the tariff reduction, calling this conversation with Trump wonderful, thanking him for the 18% rate, but notably did not reference to a trade deal, nor did he comment on oil purchases from Russia or India's energy needs. The messaging gap is telling. Responding to the statement, Sergio Gore, the US ambassador to India, took to social media platform to underline the personal rapport between the two leaders and the strategic promise of partnership. He said Donald Trump genuinely considers Prime Minister Modi a great friend, and the relationship between India and the United States is going to be potentially limitless. Now, one thing is clear, India now enjoys one of the lowest tariff rates in Asia at just 18%. India has edged ahead of key regional competitors, gaining a clear advantage in access to the American markets. What does it mean for India? What could be the political ramifications going forward? Listen into this conversation.
All right, you are watching our coverage where we are trying to decode the India-US trade deal. Not too many details as of now as we are speaking at this moment, but what we know for a fact, Kartikeya, is that the tariff on Indian exports going into US have been reduced from 50% to 18%. Is that the only fact we know at the moment? Because everything else at the moment seems like the statement of US President Donald Trump, which is never away from hyperboles.
You see, the larger issue is that the story has only emanated from the United States of America. Correct. And Indian Prime Minister has reciprocated by saying thank you.
Yeah.
And he has reciprocated by tweeting, and he has said that, well, you know, we create results. Me and Trump create results. Now
we get the job done.
We get the job done. Yeah. So you know, if you look at the larger narrative template before we get into the detail, the narrative template is one. Trump says that it was on the insistence of the Indian Prime Minister.
Yes.
One, you know, that may be contested. We might not contest it and let it be.
Sure.
You know, knowing the nature of Donald Trump.
Sure.
The second issue is, does it fall into the template of the way Donald Trump works? Absolutely yes.
Yes, because every single trade deal which has been announced has never been announced through a pact, through the negotiators. It has always been announced on Truth Social by the US president.
I think it's more to do with the way Trump tries to take the credit for any deal.
Correct.
If you look at the issue of Abhinandan,
yeah.
Trump was in Singapore and he was meeting Kim. And in Singapore, he tweeted about a crisis that had taken
Yes, I
place
remember that.
post Balakot.
Yeah.
And if I recall it right, he said some good news is going to come, and then
Yeah,
the
yeah,
entire thing
yeah.
happened. It was over by 9:30 that day.
Correct.
So that's one. Secondly, most of the announcements are made by Trump. Even during Operation Sindoor, which we have put it on record saying that this is incorrect. He was the first person to announce it on
So
Truth
all
Social.
the details that we know at the moment are coming from his own Truth
So
Social
by
post.
template,
and there are 2 or 3 things. I understand the template is very
Template
clear.
is
It's the
right.
Trump template.
It's a
right?
Trump template.
So the finer details, we are still awaiting those finer details. But from what we understand from the post of the US president is that India has agreed to give US 0 tariffs. We don't know whether that is exactly the stated line that India has also taken or not.
I don't, you know, there's a catch there. You know, we haven't said where we are going to provide them zero tariff.
Right.
Is he talking about zero tariff in context of a sector, or is Trump talking about zero tariff about a particular good
Right.
or a particular commodity? Because you know, Trump is in a habit of changing
This is
the
Trumpism.
goalposts.
This is ideal Trumpism.
And the second important thing is, it's a sign of relief for us for simple reason, because
But
from
relief or not also is actually, it depends, Kartikeya, which side and which timeline you're looking at it
See,
from. From 25-18 is good. From 50-18 is very good. But from near 0 in the pre-Trump second term in Oval Office, 18 is still high.
I think, you know, what was a major concern, Kartika, major concern politically, apart from economy, was our apparel, leather and textile
Correct.
sector.
And the gems and jewelry sector.
Gems and jewelry sector. MSME was a sector this government was very concerned about.
Correct.
I think the government has been able to address that. Secondly, this deal is happening in the wake of the deal we had with EU.
Right.
If we call mother of all deal now, internet is now...
There's a grandmother of all deals.
It's saying it's father of the deal, you know. So we had a mother of a deal, we had the father of the deal, so we had father, mother of both the deals.
If you look at how the Indian export story has panned out over the last 1 year, and some could pretty much say that it might not have happened had it not been for Trump's aggression and his tariff aggression. So India got the UK deal stitched, we got the New Zealand deal stitched, we got the mother of all deals that you're talking about, the EU deal stitched. All of these in a way to sort of, offset the Trump tariff impact on MSMEs. Then came budget, and budget gave another 10,000 crore rupee package. And now the MSMEs also have the US trade deal. So it's definitely good news for India's export story.
I think there are 3 things here. The first thing is that India has been able to conclude a deal, the details of which are not available, without offending Trump or without offending the entire Trump administration, despite what has happened
and also
in Venezuela,
publicly thanking him for cutting
despite what has happened in Greenland, despite his changed goalposts in Ukraine. So we have not been able to offend Donald Trump. The second important aspect is that this has happened when we could have ended up, straining our relationship with Putin. We did not strain our relationship with Putin. We carried along with that relationship.
In fact, we had the India-Russia summit in New Delhi.
Plus, we also ensured that some lines are opened with China, Xi Jinping, despite so many pressure on India. Third, and the most important of all, the Prime Minister personally did not address the entire issue. So he kept the cacophony at the level of social media. He did not allow it to have an institutionalized position. Because we understand one thing, when it comes to values, people-to-people contact, universities, technology, flow of capital, Indian society has moved closer with the society of the United States. But that's not the way we are doing business with Russia. It's more strategic, more person to person.
And very business oriented.
Very business oriented. There's no collision of values there. We understand that. So that way, I think it's a big breakthrough. But our larger interest would be, what have we agreed in when it comes to agriculture?
And those details
poultry,
are still awaited. And
milk,
oil as well, because
seeds,
we really don't know.
Seeds.
Yeah, you're right.
Seeds.
So I think the entire agri story, the entire dairy story is going to unfold, like the entire oil story will unfold. So let's look at both these. This was a very, very clear, definite, hard red line that India is not going to offer any concessions to any trading partner when it comes to agriculture. Now, there are just exactly 4 sectors that Donald Trump has mentioned in his post. And one of those 4 sectors is agriculture. And even the US Secretary of Agriculture has gone on Twitter and on X and thanked the US president for opening a 1.4 billion person market to US farmers.
I'll put it like this. You see, after months of programming, after the tariffs were imposed on us, there was not one retired diplomat, Kartik, not one retired diplomat who said that, let's disengage with the United States of America.
Yeah, of course.
Not one.
Of course.
Everyone said that we need to be invested in the United States
Yeah,
of America.
yeah.
So there was a consensus within our diplomatic
So there is
community.
diplomacy and there's also economics, right? Because
Second.
there are also big vested business
Second
interests
thing,
because it's the largest trading partner for
if
India.
you look at from the perspective of the Americans, you see sometimes things become clearer over a period of time. When the Venezuelan raid took place, when the Maduros were taken out, what has Americans done? They have created another pipeline of cheap oil.
Yeah.
You know, okay, we don't want you to buy cheap oil from Russia. You buy it from Venezuela.
Yes.
You want cheap oil, you'll get cheap oil.
Right.
So the Americans did something in the southern hemisphere so that they can affect something in northern hemisphere vis-a-vis India, Ukraine, Russia.
That's
That's
right.
second thing. Third thing which I really understand is I think India feels that Trump also understands that the elections which are going to take place next year, he can end up becoming a lame duck president if he loses control of the houses there.
Yeah.
So even Trump does not want to anger the old allies.
Right.
He understands that. And the American Constitution, mind you, has not been amended. This is his last presidency.
That's right.
You know, can he talk to eternity? He
Yet.
can talk to eternity. Thank God for the fact that American Constitution is a laggard. It's so difficult to amend. You know, there are only 27 amendments that have taken place in American Constitution. So Trump stays as the president only for his second term.
This is his last term in office, so to speak. Okay, so, you know, if you were to just put this into context, again, what we know so far, and we're having this conversation before we've seen the fine print of the trade deal. As things stand, if we were to look at the US president's post and if we were to look at the selective posting done by the Indian political leadership, who seems to be gaining more out of this trade deal? Has US gotten the better of India, or has India, by just offsetting 50% to 18%, which is much more than the near zero tariffs that India enjoyed earlier, who seems to be winning out of this trade deal right now?
I think India has got a fair deal.
Okay.
For one simple reason. One, we have not ended up offending the United States of America. We have to understand that India has to deal with China.
Right.
China and Pakistan are the real near threats for India.
Right.
One. Secondly, we are intimately now dependent on American tech, apart from fifth generation aircrafts and all that we may get from Russia. We are really dependent on that. Third, it's a great breather for our MSMEs and the apparel and the textile sectors. And the fourth, this is what the world is ending up. UK has 10%. You know, some people have 20%.
China has 34%.
18% is a good deal. And we have not wrecked our relationship. I think that's the long and bottom of this story.
All right. So let's leave it at that until we get more details, which we will, of course, keep bringing for our viewers. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.